There are books that we finish, and then there are books that finish us. The ones that lodge themselves somewhere behind the ribs and refuse to leave. Today, I want to talk to you about the stories I still carry with me, the ones that stayed long after I turned the last page. Hi, and welcome back to Offbeat Journeys. I'm James, an independent author, and in this series I sit down with other indie authors and ask them 3 deceptively simple questions. The childhood book that changed everything, the book that broke their heart, and the book that flipped everything they thought they knew. Then we dive deeper into their work, their process, and the stories they're building next. But sometimes, like today, it'll just be me. Last episode, I answered those 3 questions myself. Today, though, I want to talk to you about the other books that stayed. Not necessarily the childhood favourites, not necessarily the tearjerkers, not necessarily the twist-heavy mind-benders. These are the books that were so quietly profound that they nestled in and stayed, whether I asked them to or not. So in this episode we're going to explore the book that still haunts me, the book that rewired my brain, and the book that made me feel seen. And we're going to talk about why they stayed, what they revealed, and what they continue to echo in my life. But before we dive in, can I ask you a tiny favour? If you enjoy this episode, would you share it with just one friend? Word of mouth is genuinely the lifeblood of indie creators, and even one new person makes a huge difference. Thank you. Now let's begin. Book 1. The one that still haunts me. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This book is a classic for a reason, and the reason it haunts me is simple. The young shepherd boy travels across countries in search of the treasure he desires more than anything in the world. He's sent on challenge after challenge, hardship after hardship, only to discover at the very end that the treasure was buried beneath the very tree where he first had his vision. It's a stunning revelation, one that forces you to rethink the entire journey you've just travelled alongside him. All the heartbreak, selling his flock, being robbed of everything he owned, wandering miles from home. None of it needed to happen for him to find what he sought. Everything he ever needed was already where he began. This stayed with me. It taught me that what we most want is often closer than we think, that the things we chase across continents may actually be within reach already. That yes, perseverance, grit, luck, and determination are necessary, but the heart of what we want is often in our own hands. I still think about The Alchemist at least once every 6 months, even though I read it a decade ago. It was one of my favourites for a long time. Some say it leans towards self-help more than literature, but to me it's literature. Good literature. Literature that lingers. Following the shepherd boy on that journey, I couldn't wait to see what happened next. If you were one of the few who hasn't read it yet, it's short, powerful, and will stay with you for years. Book 2. The other one that rewired my brain. A Prisoner of Birth by Jeffrey Archer. For this one, we return to the king of the twist, Jeffrey Archer. And unlike the last book, there isn't one single twist or scene that stands out. If there had been, I may not have finished the book at all, because this book is relentless. A Prisoner of Birth was my first proper entry into the Archer universe, and from page 1 I was hooked. There was never a chapter ending where I thought, yeah, that's enough reading for today. It was always, what happens next? Just one more chapter. I need to know. That rhythm, that compulsive forward motion, rewired how I think about fiction. Because my favourite books, from that point onwards, became the ones that made you need to keep reading. The writing was superb. The characters were full of depth and personality. Danny Cartwright's arc was emotional and compelling, and the emotional core beneath the twists was powerful. That combination, heart plus momentum, became something I've been chasing in my own writing ever since. In my current novel, Unkindness, I'm trying to create something similar. Chapter endings that don't let you walk away easily. Characters who feel alive and layered. Emotional stakes that run quietly beneath everything. And a mix of hope, struggle, humour, and human resilience. I want Christian and Emily to feel like three-dimensional humans you root for. People you desperately want to see win despite everything. And if I can capture even a fraction of what Archer achieved, I'll be thrilled. Book 3. The book that made me feel seen. The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. This book didn't strike me with one unforgettable moment. It was more the atmosphere, the quiet honesty. It was one of the first books that helped me identify myself. A quiet person, an overthinker, someone who let life happen to them rather than making things happen for themselves. At the time I didn't fully understand who I was, but this book put language to it. It held up a mirror to a part of myself that I had never articulated, and it made me realise something crucial. Being quiet isn't a weakness. In fact, it can be a kind of strength. If you're a quiet person, the few things you do say land louder. Your voice carries weight because you save it for what matters. To this day, I gravitate towards books with quiet rebels, characters who summon the courage to overcome their overthinking, just enough to take a step forward. Those are the stories that strike me the most. And that's why this book stayed with me, because it named something in me that I hadn't yet named myself. The overarching arc. When you line these 3 books up, from The Alchemist to A Prisoner of Birth to The Perks of Being a Wallflower, you start to see an unexpected arc, almost a single story. Innocence broken, purpose sought, identity reclaimed. They're not just 3 books in 3 different genres. They're 3 phases of the same human journey. The wound, the search, the transformation. And that's why they stayed. Each book also left behind something deeper, an emotional holdover. By that, I mean a moment that doesn't leave you, not as a memory, but as something that quietly shapes your worldview. For me, in Perks, it's the moment we realise Charlie is carrying more than we thought. In The Alchemist, it's the moment the shepherd boy realises the world had been speaking to him all along. In A Prisoner of Birth, it's Danny choosing who he will become, not shaped by the cruelty of others, but by an inner resolve. These moments linger because they speak to parts of us we rarely acknowledge. The private wounds, the unanswered questions, the buried strength. They speak to the ache we hide, the longing we don't say aloud, the courage we forget we have. That's the difference between a book you enjoyed and a book that lives inside you. They almost talk for you, as if they know something about you that you haven't admitted yet. I didn't open any of these books expecting them to shape my life, but that's the beauty of a good book. It finds you when you need it. So now I want to turn the question over to you. What book do you still think about years later? Which character refuses to leave your mind? What story changed something, big or small, in you? If you're listening and a book still holds space in your mind, message me. I genuinely love hearing these. We're shaped by the stories we keep thinking about. These are mine, and maybe, just maybe, you're now reflecting on your own. Keep reading things that stay with you. They're the stories worth remembering. That's it for another episode of Offbeat Journeys. If you want to follow along, hit subscribe wherever you're listening. And if something today resonated, you can find me on my free weekly Substack newsletter, Offbeat Journeys by James. The link is in the show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, another small favour. Leaving an honest rating and review down below really helps other book lovers find the show. It only takes a few seconds, but it makes a world of difference for indie podcasts like this one. For now, I'm James. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next mile of the Offbeat Journey.